Hi, it's Michael and Anthony here presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for the current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, with Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service, we'll interview a different small business expert or a fellow business owner and get them to share their best tips and insights for you, the listeners. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. Thanks also to our supporters, Kerr Capital and the Small Business Mentoring Service. So welcome to another edition of Small Business Banter. Very good to have in today Joanne Martin, who's a small business owner based in Lake Macquarie, New South Wales. I'll talk a little bit about Jo's background, but welcome in, Jo.
Thank you.
It's really great to have you. Yeah. I know you've stepped out of an entrepreneurs conference or an innovators conference that you're at, so we really appreciate you taking time out. Anthony Turner is also in again. Welcome, Anthony, from the Small Business Mentoring Service.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be back again.
Yes, it is. We continue to love doing this. So, Jo, I'll just give the listeners a quick snapshot. I think your purpose is to help innovators, change makers, and entrepreneurs, to really scale up their business. You're passionate about connecting with entrepreneurs and business owners who are looking for that sort of extra to ignite, their own business through content marketing, communication, brand strategy. I'll get you to explain all that in everyday language.
Yes.
And particularly at the end, we wanted to draw out your experience, working with owners, and also in the end, we want to talk about something I found really fascinating was multi-author books, which you've created a platform to enable people to basically contribute a chapter to a book with a bunch of other authors and entrepreneurs. So we'll get to that one, but perhaps if you could just give us a recap on your personal, professional business, leading up to where you are today. Tell us about what you actually do today.
Okay, thank you. So basically, I started my career in the corporate world, working in marketing and communications and also transformational change. And throughout that time, I've always had a passion for writing. I've done quite a lot of ghost writing and things for people who run their own blogs or their own business, and they don't have time to actually write the things themselves. So they'll give me a topic and I assist them by doing that work in the background. And what I found was, I wanted more autonomy within my life and actually to be able to take my business out of providing service to corporates and start helping entrepreneurs. And probably about 10 years ago it was now, I started working with female entrepreneurs and startups and women who just wanted to do something different and not be constrained by working for someone else. And that's, I guess, where my real entrepreneurial journey started. Working with small businesses, particularly people who weren't, in a major city or centre, but were more regional and remote. And, the challenges they faced in terms of, getting cut through and actually accessing the right clients for their organisation or their business. And so from there, things have evolved. And in 2019, I was asked to co-author in a book in America. And at the time, I thought, do I have time? Is this going to be really beneficial for my business? But what I found in saying yes to that opportunity was that it's given me an amazing network within the States and has taken my business in a new direction. And through that, I've started writing more, and I did co-author another book earlier this year, which was more Australian-based, but still global. So we still had writers from Europe and writers from North America. And on the back of that, I've said yes to a lot of opportunities. And I identified that my corporate background and my skill set in learning and development and communications and marketing could actually flip that on its head. So actually flip being a contributor within a multi-author book on its head and make it much more effective and much more powerful. And so I've established my own publishing company and am going into that field of publishing for multi-author books and solo authors. So what I bring to the table that I felt wasn't there in my experiences is really that understanding of how to take people through the writing process and guide them, and also to get them to start thinking about how to promote themselves and what they want to do on the back of that. So from a marketing perspective, how are you going to utilise what you're doing today to actually then create success for your business, particularly if you're not in a major city? And I think with COVID, that has changed the game considerably for everybody around the globe. A lot more people are online. That's a lot noisier, and there's it's harder to get cut through and up-level your business. And that's where I can help in terms of identifying opportunities to really project this forward.
And what I really like about that is that regardless of where you are physically located, the opportunities to build a global audience, a global brand, a global client base, not just by authoring a book, but in lots of ways, is much more realistic. Perhaps it's now people have realised that it's possible. So
yes,
yeah, and you're a case in point. Anthony Turner, our co-host, is also an author of a book, and we'll talk a little bit about his experience. But so what are the challenges of your clients day to day? What just talk a little bit about what they are, so that other owners listening in can kind of relate to the. I'm pretty sure we're going to have the same. All of us are going to have the same set of challenges as a business owner.
Yes, I think it can often be expanding and increasing your client pool. How to identify who they are, how to actually get their attention and tap into what they're doing and showcase what it is that you can offer them and how that will benefit them. I do think, when you're not in a major centre or in a city, it's not like you can sort of be walking down the street and have access to, thousands of people. So I grew up in the country. My parents always ran a business. They did business, within New South Wales. So back then we didn't have the internet in the same scale. We didn't have the internet. And then when it did come in, we didn't have it on the same scale. So, a lot of that was personal connections. And I still think that is, super important today. But the challenge is, identifying your ideal client and then working out where they are and how you can actually connect with them. And that's where, strategic marketing and being seen and online and really networking more broadly than within your community can help. And I think, within smaller, regional remote areas, there are less people that potentially get to buy your product or service. So then you need to be more creative and innovative in the way that you promote that out to others.
Yeah, Jo, I think one of the things that I've seen in terms of working with businesses regionally and particularly is often that they fairly sort of, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but they're fairly sort of insular in the sense that they don't feel that they've really got something much to say.
Yes.
And so I can see one of the challenges is potentially is to try and get people in, particularly in regional areas, to really start to look at how they do have not only a voice, but they've also got an interesting story that the rest of the people, city-based people and things like that, we want to buy into that sort of stuff.
Yes. Well, I mean, a good example of an initiative that really worked was the Buy from the Bush campaign. So that actually put a lot of regional businesses on the map. And I visited Dubbo recently and went to Golgong and some other areas around there, Narromine and that type of thing. And I visited an alpaca farm, and what the woman was saying was, they were in a drought. They, weren't making any money out of the traditional farming methods. They had got alpacas to protect their sheep flock and that kind of thing. And she said, we had to innovate because we weren't going to survive. And there was, no money coming in. And they started using the actual fleece from the alpacas, and she started creating, jewellery and homewares and things from that. And then it was actually the Buy from the Bush campaign. She got on board with that and started promoting her stuff. And she said that actually was what saved them in the drought, was actually, becoming part of that. And I do think that people just need to start thinking of, other ways that they can access help and also opportunities as they arise.
Yeah, and I think, talking about their stories, I mean, this is, in marketing today, what we're hearing now is that, it's getting away from the selling stuff to people,
yes,
and very much into getting that engagement marketing where, we get people involved in our businesses. We've had a number of interviews that we've done through Small Business Banter where people have taken it up. I remember a lady in Castlemaine who does dog coats and stuff.
Yes.
She gets very, very involved in the customers and the pets and
yes,
providing information, and she gets that story out there. And that's really what's driven her success.
Yes, yeah, and I agree. I think the stories behind what people are doing, and the why, and also the what's in it for me in terms of the customer side is important too. So I think in the current market, I know that there's a bigger push, to buy local and to buy Australian and that type of thing. And more people than ever before, I think, are looking for that. They're not looking for something cheap and imported. They're actually looking to support, our economy here and regional economies and communities. And so if you can start, as I say to my clients, drip feeding out your story as part of, your promotion and how you talk about your product or service, then that brings them on the journey and allows them to connect more with you as a brand. And I think that's a very important part of branding.
On today's edition of Small Business Banter, we're talking with Joanne Martin. The name of your company, I think, is Golden Earth Publishing. Yes, I didn't say that at the start, but I'm fascinated with this idea of telling a story to build your brand presence, to add value to your customers, to, as Anthony said, to get them engaged. Are all of the books that you and the authors that you deal with, are they always telling a story, or are they sometimes, does a book have to be a story? Can it be a kind of an instructional, I'm just imagining some, product-based businesses, out there in regional Australia, and, are there different kinds of books?
Look, there absolutely are. I mean, anything that you can conceptualize in your mind is possible in terms of publishing a book. With my current book, Innovation Secrets, what is happening with that, the energy behind it, and people actually coming on board as co-authors, it's less about telling your personal story from a sort of transformational perspective, and more about adding value to the reader. So
right.
Providing the framework of your story, but in the context of actually allowing people to walk away with some tips that they can apply straight away within their business. And that was one thing that I identified in the other multi-author books that I had participated in, was it was really for most people about the story, and I always took it more from the perspective of what do I want the reader to walk away with, how can I help them. An example in my most recent book that I participated in, it was interesting. I had a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn particularly who weren't connected to me, saying, can I connect? I would really like to work with you. And your chapter in that book, I've actually, printed that out, and I am doing those exercises you've got in there every day to help me improve my business or my career or my personal life or whatever it might be. And that, I think there's some value in that.
You're providing you're a service-based business. So
yes.
I can imagine there's, I'm in a service-based business. You feel like you've got something to say, but there's only so many people that or that you can reach.
Yes.
In traditional perhaps marketing or advertising ways. This is possibly, a whole new way to do things.
Yes.
So what about your this client? What have they gone on to want to contribute in their own way to another book? Is that how it works?
Look, it varies. Different clients have different outcomes they're trying to achieve. So, for some people, it's contributing as part of the book. For some people, it's actually writing a solo book. And with that particular client, she has joined up to a coaching program that I have, and we're working towards her releasing her own solo book. However, for other people who don't have the time to put into actually writing their own book, contributing a chapter is a really good way to get the writing journey started and get their story out there.
So writing is one aspect, obviously, of a publication. So whether that's a blog post or whether that's a book or whether that's a chapter in a multi-author book.
Yes.
And I guess one of the biggest challenges that, I had to face when I was in my writings and putting stuff out there,
yes,
is how do we get it published? Because I think most people really are in the dark about how do we actually get our information out there in the marketplace. So I'd be interested in any tips and ideas that you've got about how our listeners, sitting back there thinking, well, I've got an article and I've got some stuff here,
yes,
but I don't know how to get it out there.
Yes. Well, look, there is the traditional route where you submit your manuscript or whatever it is to one of the big publishing houses, and then you wait 3 or 4 months and see if they think that will appeal to their readers, and they may or may not offer you a contract. I think that's probably the most difficult way. A lot of people, unless you've got something amazing or a very good contact, not impossible though, but I think a lot of other people, they do the self-publishing, and there are variants of how you can do that, depending on whether you utilise the services of a company like mine who will help you and actually do that publishing side for you, or whether you do it yourself and you get out there and you get everything edited and formatted and the book covers designed and created and all of that kind of thing. So that's not impossible, but very time consuming. I did look into that when I first started writing, and or you participate in a project or work with a publisher like me, where with my solo authors. So I have some solo authors coming on board. They do the manuscript and they create their profile. I work with them in terms of editing both of those, and then I take care of all the rest of it. So they really just have to do the manuscript, provide their bio and like a good photo, and I check in with them regularly, and then I do the editing, the cover design, the formatting for the different platforms that you will put it on. I specifically target Kindle and Amazon. It is the most effective way that I've found to actually, get global reach, and make it accessible to everybody. You can, also print the books, and have done that, and then you've got to actually distribute it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it must be quite a relief or release for people to actually, if they feel like they've got something to write, to actually get a manuscript down. Because I can imagine that Anthony, you went through it. You co-authored a significant book, and the task that of writing a book is monumental, particularly when you're running a business. Is there a sense of release when they finally get to get finished?
Look, I think, Michael, in the writing of our book that we did, which was about disaster recovery and planning and stuff like that, so very business related, it was probably quite cathartic for us in the sense that we'd done a lot of work in disaster recovery, very much on the ground after the Black Saturday bushfires, Victorian floods of 2010, 2011 and stuff like that. And then we decided, what we recognised was that there was nothing out there in the marketplace that was actually providing constructive information for small business owners to be able to plan, prepare, respond and recover from disaster. So that was the theme of ours. So we saw a need, and so we wrote about that. But the getting it out there was quite challenging in the sense of the release of actually getting out there was sort of like this combined excitement and trepidation. We've put all this work and effort in, and is anybody going to buy the book or going to read it? So, and I think at the end of the day, what I would suggest if for anybody who's writing is don't write for an audience, write for yourself. I'd be interested in your comments about that, Jo.
Look, I think it depends on the context. So I, with the multi-author books that I run, I do ask people obviously to share their stories. So that is, about them, but to add value for the reader. So it's, I guess, a dual focus where, you're providing inspiration and practical tools for people to be able to use. So that is in the context of the writer, but it's still you telling your story and sharing your skills and knowledge and experience with others.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying though is that rather than look, there's as you mentioned before, the big publishers don't take up many books, particularly in the business genres, unless it's really outstanding. And they typically the people who go through books and publishers and distributors, and I'm not saying you because yours is a different environment altogether, but the majors, don't make very much money out of their books and stuff like that anyway. It's, unless there's huge volumes.
Yes.
So, that's why I say maybe, the authors, if they write from themselves, so in other words, expanding their passion, sharing the things that they know, rather than with the idea of riches, is probably you're going to get a better book as a result.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I do say to the authors that I take on board, you're not here to try and make $1 million. You're here to actually write your story, share something that can help change the lives of others and make the world a better place, potentially. And also to leverage that as, a marketing tool or a personal branding tool for you. And I think that that's where the real value is. If I look at my own journey, I'm being approached now by quite a big magazine in Europe to become an executive contributor for them. Now, that opportunity would not have been there had I not started, writing and publishing and I guess, being more seen in the space that I begin.
And Jo, how long between you writing whatever the article they picked up or the book they picked up on and this recent inquiry as an example? Was it, I'm imagining it's not, bang here, but because you've got something written, it's there, yes. It gets discovered maybe months, maybe years later, possibly.
So for me, that's actually been only a couple of months.
Okay.
If I'm honest, I've been so focused on my clients and servicing their needs that I hadn't done until the last couple of weeks a promotion of the work that I've actually been doing myself. And so they've just picked me up this week, and I've actually heard from them 4 times in the last 2 days and haven't had time to respond yet. And I'm like, I'm really interested, definitely, because, they're dealing with big players. So they've got a lot of people who are executive contributors who've got, 4 million followers and 2.1 million followers and et cetera, et cetera. So that's an opportunity for me to really hit the global stage in a completely different way. And had I had more time and been less focused on actually ensuring my clients had a great experience, that could have happened much earlier. So If you think about it, it's been 2 months, but really I've only been on that promotional pathway for myself over the last 4 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty good. I think, Anthony, for you, perhaps, you wrote the book. It was a good, how many years ago?
We actually launched it back in 2014.
Right.
We run, won a couple of awards for it, but we were fortunate too because we also had some backing from government because they were looking to do disaster recovery. So they were our first purchasers of books, and very thankful to the Small Business Victoria for their contribution and their assistance.
Yeah. But I mean, are you getting some sort of continual recognition years on? I mean, that's 7 years ago.
Yeah, we do. I think one of the things about being a published author is it gives you a sense, or it gives you a kudos or a sense of credibility that there is something out there that's written. It can be attested to you, and people do draw on you as a result of that.
Yeah, it's there in perpetuity. Jo, look, we're coming up to the end. I wanted to sort of throw a couple of quick questions at you. Do you find with business owners, a lot of them do have a good story, to tell, if not in a full book, in a chapter, or that you'd encourage them to get out, and that on the basis that it can really help their business?
Yes, look, absolutely. I look at the success that a lot of my co-authors have had, and just how it's taken their business in a different direction. So I guess, today I'm attending an innovation boot camp for entrepreneurs, and that is run by the New South Wales government. And, we're talking about how do you actually cut through and do something really different. And I just think that, you need to be innovating, and you need to be positioned more as an authority around what you do, and your story is part of that. Some of the people that I've spoken to this week as potential authors in Innovation Secrets, they're doing some amazing things. And I'm dealing primarily with regional people and things that people don't know about. And I'm like, people need to know about this, and they need to hear. And, just the synchronicity with some of those conversations, and how you realise you actually know somebody that they're working with, and that type of thing. So, it really is a very powerful way.
Yeah, and it needs to be coaxed out. Hey, it's it's wonderful to hear, particularly that you talk working with so many regional business owners, which is what we're about here on Small Business Banter. Joe Martin, thank you so much for your time today. You can get back to the conference now, but really interesting discussion, and hopefully that's opened up a few possibilities for people to get writing and see the benefits of finally doing it. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. It was great to come and join you guys today.
Thank you.
So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. Anthony and I continue to be inspired by bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. For any of the links, resources or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact Anthony or myself, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on both Facebook and Instagram. Anthony and I would love you to tune in at the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.